So you've been building your podcast for months or even years. You're uploading consistently and watching your download numbers like a hawk. Maybe you even spent a few $100s on a brand new mic and soundproof wall panels. But wouldn't it be nice to actually start making money from your podcast, not spending it? Well, the easiest way to do that is by getting sponsorships. The problem is, most podcasters have no idea where to start. What exactly do you say when you email a brand? How do you make brands pick you and not Joe Rogan? And the big one, how much money can you actually make? But before I answer any of that, there's something else you gotta figure out first. And unless you nail this part, you can kiss those lucrative podcast sponsorships goodbye. Ask yourself this: who is your ideal sponsor? And if you think you know the answer already, you're probably wrong. Because figuring out which brands your audience is gonna love isn't as simple as you think. Most podcasters think about their audience's demographics. That's their age, their gender, their geography, and they think they know which brands would be a good fit.
My audience of mid-20s baristas love my coffee podcast. I guess I'll find a rare Brazilian bean company to sponsor my podcast.
Okay, that isn't wrong, but you're absolutely gonna lose out on money with this approach. I'm gonna show you how to find 10 times more sponsors by changing one small thing. Don't just think about your audience's demographics. You need to think about their psychographics. And no, I'm not talking about Norman Bates here. It's about who they are and what they want. What are their interests, their hobbies? Do they live on their own or with friends? What are their jobs? What keeps them up at night? Because once you know their problems, you can figure out which brands are gonna provide solutions. Suddenly you realize those mid-20s baristas might enjoy eating cookies with their coffee, so online bakeries can go on your list. Maybe they drink an early morning espresso while journaling, so bespoke stationery brands can go on there too. Maybe they love the idea of creating a custom-designed barista apron sporting a picture of a rare Colombian bean that's being lovingly cradled by James Hoffman. I mean, you never know. But how do you figure out their psychographics? Well, you can ask. Ask them to email you about themselves and what they do on the weekend. Link a survey in your show notes asking when and where they listen. Talk to them on Twitter or Discord. The biggest realization for you as a podcaster is that you are the conduit for brands to reach prospective new customers, i.e. your audience. And the more you know who your audience is, the better partnerships you'll find. So we're gonna talk about exactly what to say in your pitch, but there's one thing we still need to figure out first. Which specific brands should you reach out to? Now, I know you've probably already started practicing your Athletic Greens ad read in the mirror after you heard them sponsoring Tim Ferriss.
That's athleticgreens.com/creator debates. That's ATHLE.
But there's a problem. Okay? Huge brands are gonna be pretty hard to land when you're starting out. So you've gotta figure out which brands are realistic. Not only am I gonna tell you how to do this, but also how to make those brands 5 times more likely to say yes. Here's something most podcasters don't know. It's actually possible to find out which brands are actively setting aside budget to sponsor creators like you. How? Well, you've just gotta hack into their internal budget spreadsheets using the third-party software you can find linked below this. I'm kidding. No, but seriously, if you sign up for my course, I'll send it to you. Kidding. Or am I? But you can figure out which brands are splashing the cash pretty easily. The secret is to listen to other podcasts in your niche and with a similar size listenership and see which brands are popping up over and over. Not only does this literally tell you which brands are paying creators, it also gives you an easy opening paragraph when you reach out to them. But we'll come back to what you're gonna say in just a minute. Once you've figured out the brands you want to target, it's kind of a numbers game. What if I told you that you were only 50 emails away from your first sponsorship? Would you go for it? I bet you would. So set a weekly target, maybe 2 small brands per day, and I guarantee you'll start to hear back. But don't be totally off-put emailing bigger brands either. I actually got my new podcast, Creator Debates, sponsored by ConvertKit just by hitting them with a compelling pitch. So you never know your luck. So what do you actually say in the email? Brands might be getting dozens of emails per day, so you have to make yours stand out. That's why I want to talk about my proven 4-step pitching method that I teach in my course, Brand Deal Wizard, which is called the ROPE method. R stands for relevant, which means showing them you're aware of their current campaigns and tying your pitch into that. And remember, you already figured this out because you did some sleuthing and heard the key messages and the call to action in those other podcasts. O stands for organic, meaning that you can tie your pitch back to work that you've already published, whether that's name dropping them directly or linking them an episode that's related to their campaign. P stands for proof, proof, meaning you can show how you've helped other brands achieve results. And E stands for easy to execute when they say yes. Basically, you don't want to promise them something that you can't actually deliver. So pulling this all together, your pitch becomes absolutely dynamite. Hey John, I heard that Athletic Greens is helping raise money for No Kid Hungry. I was curious if that initiative will continue in Q2. I often talk about the importance of health and nutrition with my listeners, and they're always huge fans of brands that give back. I'd love to help you spread the word about this program by doing 10 host-read ads, either pre or mid-rolls. I can turn the first 2 integrations around within 2 weeks. I can grant you usage rights to the audio to repurpose for your social handles or for paid ads. Also happy to share how I recently helped LifeStraw move the needle on a recent partnership. Are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to chat? Thanks, Justin. Now, we're almost ready to talk about cold, hard cash, but there's one last thing we got to address first, because there isn't just one way a brand can sponsor your podcast, and you can make 10 times more when you know the right words to say. Here's the thing. Most brands and advertisers want to pay podcasters via CPM, that's cost per mil, meaning a set rate per 1,000 downloads just to buy up your inventory. That just means that they'll reserve a 30 to 60 second space in your podcast episode where either you or they do an ad read. The amount the brand pays will depend on your downloads. But for smaller podcasters, this can be a problem. These days, most brands and agencies try to pay around $25 to $30 CPM for a 60-second spot. So even with 1,000 listeners, you're just not going to earn that much. But I need you to hear this. Your download numbers are not the only thing that matters. I'm going to give you 4 ways you can make more money per sponsorship without having to wait for your downloads to increase first. By the way, the third one is where you can really up your rates, and I'll bet you've never even thought of the fourth one. Number 1, suggest that the brand sponsors an entire season of your show rather than a single episode. This is going to give the brand repeated exposure, but won't be much more work for you because you'll only have to record the ad read once. Now, rather than desperately holding out for a $30 CPM, you can confidently charge the brand 10x as much. Number 2, upsell additional social media syndication on your newsletter or your Instagram or any other platform where you're growing an audience as well. Now the brand's gonna get its message in front of audiences across multiple platforms, and they'll get additional SEO benefits. Depending on your platform, you can easily charge 2 to 3x for that. And number 3, if a brand has an awareness campaign goal type, that is, they just wanna spread the word and don't care about people actually buying their product, offer dynamic ad insertions across your back catalog for, say, 3 months. Often when podcasters quote however many thousands of downloads per month to sponsors, the new ad read won't get anywhere near that exposure since new episodes only get a percentage of those downloads. But a dynamic ad insertion means every single episode you've ever made will now feature that brand for a time period, which basically guarantees them a certain number of impressions. Again, depending on how long you run this for and the size of your back catalog, you can easily charge 20x for something like that. And number 4, upsell the brand with in-person events. One of my coaching clients, Paul from the Green Industry podcast, started making 5 to 10 times more per sponsorship when he began upselling brands with live events, speaking engagements, interviews with the brand's marketing brass, and more. By the way, I talk in detail about ways to make more money from each sponsorship in week 2 of my course, Brand Deal Wizard. So go to branddealwizard.com or click the link below to learn more. So let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes I see creators making during the sponsorship process. Usually their reaction is something along the lines of,
"Brand has agreed to work with me. My dreams have been realized. I'm finally an influencer."
"But Justin, what about the creative brief?" "The what?" Look, I know it's easy to feel like the hard work is over, but this is the moment most creators take their eye off the ball. Because before you go and make the sponsored content, you have to remember this next step. Ask the brand for a creative brief, including the specific talking points and the call to action. If they send it and it's confusing, tell them.
Yes? I don't get it.
If you think the talking points are ineffective, tell them.
I don't get it.
If you know your listeners are gonna get confused when they hit that landing page, tell them.
I don't get it.
You're not being picky. You just want to make sure that the partnership goes well. Trust me, aligning on vision early will lead to better performance, meaning that they'll hire you again. But it doesn't end when you send them the deliverables and your episode goes live. Remember, it's so much easier to work with the same brand repeatedly than it is to keep trying to find new ones. And again, this is something I talk about extensively in my course, Brand Deal Wizard, because once the campaign is over, it's time to really show them that you mean business. And the best way to do that is to highlight how effective the partnership was by providing what's called a post-campaign report. You can showcase DMs or emails that you got from your listeners or your audience to illustrate that partnering with you was effective and that you do have influence over your followers. This is especially valuable to the brand if they were running an awareness campaign. But if it was a conversion campaign, that is, the brand wants a specific number of your audience to sign up for something or to purchase their product, you've got to ask for results. I know this feels scary, but don't be afraid if the performance of your sponsorship wasn't great, because you can use that information to do better next time. The brand's gonna appreciate you trying to analyze the campaign objectively instead of just sticking your head in the sand. Now you can refine your approach to helping the brand achieve their goals, which is gonna give them the confidence to partner up with you again. So now it's time to make even more money and strengthen your relationship with the brand just by asking some additional questions when you reach out. So if you wanna know what those are, watch this video next.